We'll talk after. Welcome everyone to Torah. I had to move the computer a little bit. The glare was really bad. I'm all bundled up because I just came back from the cemetery. It's not that I resurrected or anything. I just had a funeral. Let's see, but I will show you. I always like to show people the snow, right? You can see that for a bit of snow. This is finally, winter is here. Welcome, Glenn. Great to see your name here. Who else is around? Please say hello. I know it's cold. This is the time where some of the people start traveling to warmer climates. The good news is you can still connect to Torah L'chaim wherever you are. Right? Anywhere. Well, for me, I'm glad to be back after a little bit of a hiatus for the new year, and I hope everybody's doing well. Lots of illnesses around here in Winnipeg, lots of flu and RSV, and I hear in the States now it's mostly COVID, but also a little bit of flu. Here in Winnipeg, I would say mostly flu and RSV. And we are going to study today Parshat Vaera. We're starting with the plagues against Pharaoh, and I wanted to open up. We'll see in a minute with the magic wand stick. Remember the magic stick of Moses? He has to do lots of magic with that, which is problematic. It's problematic because I'm pretty sure people around him, they may have thought that that stick had some power by itself. What would you think? If you see somebody that is constantly using that before plagues or miracles.
Everybody needs a prop.
So, who's here? David Grossman is here. Welcome. But I'm wondering if people actually thought that it has nothing to do with Moses, and it was about having that stick, right? If you had that stick, you can do the miracles. Doesn't matter who it is. If you don't, then I don't know. Maybe you should try to get it. But Moses used it all the time. It's going to be a few exceptions where he's not using it, but mostly that's the way it is. And the first time that he used it, big time, was when he went to face Pharaoh for the first time. Let my people go. And Pharaoh said, get out of here. And so Moses threw the stick to the floor. What happened? A serpent. Right, a serpent. Some people say that it was more like a crocodile. But the funny thing is, Pharaoh was not impressed. Pharaoh looked at that and said, "What is that?" Pharaoh said, "Guys, show him." And then Pharaoh's magicians, they also had sticks. And they threw the sticks to the floor, and they also got snakes out of the sticks. So not impressed with, first appearance of the stick wasn't a big deal, even though at the end the Torah says that Moses' snake ended up eating the others. But as magic goes, they achieved the same thing. And I'm also wondering what Moses thought, right? I don't know if it ever happens to you, that you think that you have a special skill. Or some people say, I have this superpower. I don't know, I'm good at math, and I can run really fast. And then you show off. And then your friends look at you and say, what's the big deal? I can do the same. How do you feel? If you felt insecure before, how you feel after that? On top of that they were able to do the same thing, now you're embarrassed because you showed off before and you thought that your skill was unique, and then you realize that it's not. You realize that it's not. It's just saying. I will leave it there. It's for all of you to think about. How would you feel? Okay? So I'm going to bring my text, and we're going to study a little bit about this. Okay. Okay, so let's call this next text Magic Stick Take 2. Okay, Magic Stick Take 2. God said to Moses, go to Pharaoh in the morning as he's coming out to the water, and station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile, taking with you the road that turned into a snake. Okay? And I'm saying this because the rabbis mention, why is the Torah saying to Moses, take with you the road that turned into a snake? Did he have many other roads? Did he have many other sticks? Why is the Torah trying to be specific to saying, no, bring the stick that turned into a snake? And remember, every word in the Torah is necessary. So what the rabbis are saying here is it has to be a message in those extra words. What would it be the message in those extra words? It said, bring back the same stick. One of the things that I was thinking is exactly what I was sharing before, that maybe Moses wasn't so sure about the stick anymore. He said, maybe, it already kind of embarrassed myself. So God is telling Moses, there is much more about that stick than turning into a snake. So bring it back. I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you. And eventually what happened with the Nile? Blood. But the funny thing is, and that's why before we continue with the thing of the stick, the funny thing is, it wasn't Moses the one striking the river. It was Aaron. So again, the casual observer may think that it wasn't about Moses or Aaron, it's about the stick, right? The magic stick. I wish I could have one of those to make things happen. Keep that thought, okay? Keep that thought, and let's go back to this. The fact that God was telling Moses, there is much greatness with just becoming a snake. That's nothing. I know you were like, oh, snake. But that's nothing. Wait until you will see all the miracles that they're going to come. And I wanted to share with you guys a story that I found it kind of funny. And listen to this. Listen to this story. It's about Charles Ludwig. Charles Ludwig Dodgson. Okay? It's better known. Sorry? Yeah. Well, it was better known to us as Lewis Carroll. Okay? That's the way people know. Author of the 1865 children's fantasy story Alice in Wonderland. Very famous, right? What most of us do not know about him was that he was also a brilliant mathematician, spending more than 25 years teaching at Oxford University. Did you know that about him? You did. Good for you. I didn't. One day, Queen Victoria was so delighted after reading his fantasy novel, Alice in Wonderland, that she asked him to send her any other of his publications. Dodgson responded immediately, but the queen was somehow taken aback when she received two of his other works, syllables of plain algebraical geometry and an elementary essay on determinants. Hello. Howdy.
How are you?
Hold on a minute, guys. I have to be. I'll be right back. I'm in the class.
There. Long time no see.
I'm good. I'm good.
You look good.
We're Torah L'chaim.
Yeah.
We are studying.
Adrian told me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Oh, thank you
I
very
got
much.
this for you. You're
Okay.
very welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful article, and I got it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Years old. I
Wow.
realize that. It's a little yellow in color.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
scan it.
Okay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. All the best. Sorry, guys. It's nice to see people that I haven't seen in a long time. Asper Campus, this is the place when you see everybody. Come to synagogue, you won't see people for years. Come to the Asper Campus, everybody is. Who else is here? Let me see. Emperor Goldman came, and Mary Nason. Mary Nason is here. What does he say? Hold on. Sorry, I'm late logging in. That's okay. So, yeah. Back to the story. What is the story telling us? And this is why I chose it, right? Because many times there is more than what met the eye. It's more what met the eye. Sometimes we don't because we don't want, or we don't because we don't know how to appreciate multiple layers in people or in things. We are sometimes so unidimensional that we don't realize that, for example, people could be so complex that you can have a writer that wrote a beautiful fantasy book, but is also a brilliant mathematician, right? And I think there is a story here in the Torah that Moses was quick to judge the little sticks. You know, this is doing things that the Egyptians could do as well. Learn to be patient and learn to discover, you know, things that go beyond. It happened with people and with object, right? I know people that they spend, you know, thousands of dollars in a fancy phone. For what? To play Candy Crush. And then you say to the person, you know that you can also use Microsoft Word there, right? I said, really? Yeah. You know that, and then I do it all the time. I do it sometimes with my mother-in-law. Every time I teach her a new trick that she can do with the phone. But sometimes we need to take the time to discover all these other layers. And this is what started to happen with Moses here. Who else is here? Juan Miguel Sanchez Amat, welcome to the class. Shalom. Let's continue. Listen to this. Now let's continue with the magic stick, okay? Let's go to take 2, the magic stick. Listen to this. And God said to Moses, say to Aaron, you take the rod and hold out your arm over the waters of Egypt, its rivers, its canals, its ponds, and all its body of waters, that they may turn to blood. There shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone. Yeah, but it's not him. And now it's Aaron, right? Doing the miracle. Let's continue. Exodus 8. And God said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your arm with a rod over the rivers, the canals, and the ponds, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt. Okay? Just to put it in the right context, this is miracle number 2. Remember, it was blood, frogs. What was number 3? Lice. That's what I'm pointing. I don't think I have a problem. I don't have hair for lice. But So number 3, listen to this. Then God said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it shall turn to lice throughout the land of Egypt. Okay? Now, beyond the magic stick, if it has power by itself or not, why Aaron? Why not Moses? Moses was the one throwing the rod and making a snake out of it. Why is not Aaron the one that is going to hit the waters and the sand of Egypt? It's a fair question. Because after that, after miracle number 3, you will be back to Moses to use the rod all the way to the end. And by the way, guys, the rabbis are struggling with the magic stick. How to justify it as an independent, powerful thing. It's almost like I'm waiting for somebody to do a movie out of it. You know, maybe if Dan Brown to write a book about searching of the magic stick, and then somebody will find it, I will make a miracle or something. So why is that? Because being magic, channeling the power of God, when was that created? Let me bring it back. This is fascinating because the rabbi said, hold on a minute. God created the world, right? And then God didn't create anything else except, you would say, the tablets of the law that Moses eventually broke, right? And the stick. That's what the rabbi said. This stick. So one explanation or one justification is that these things were created at the beginning of time and it became hidden until Moses found it. The stick. So the stick was available to humanity forever, but only Moses was able to find it and to unlock the power. Because it cannot be created after the world was already created. God didn't create anything else. God never created anything after the creation of the world. That's it. Everything else is the world being the world. Okay? And the rabbi said also the stones used for the 10 Commandments were also created at the beginning of time. And they stay in heaven waiting for Moses. So this is a very interesting theological concept. If it's possible for something to be created after creation, or it's something that was already created at the beginning of time. Okay? And there are things talking about that. But we still have to answer the question of why God said to Moses, it's not going to be you getting the blood, the frogs, and the lice. It's going to be Aaron. Why? Let's try to answer that question. Listen to this. People, by their nature, are influenced by the experiences of their senses, even when logic dictates the opposite of what the senses perceive. Even with all the cerebral knowledge of the resultant good generated by turning the water into blood, when Moses, would actually hit the waters, his eyes will absorb the image of him performing an outwardly violent act towards something from which he received unusually positive benefit. Try to absorb this, Rocky. He has to hit the water, right? Hit the water. And Moses said, in the words of the Midrash, I don't want to hit the water because the water helped me before. Listen to this. Even though the water on the ground which he will be hitting are inanimate, the very act of hitting them will profoundly impact Moses' psyche and will diminish his own personal level of gratitude. Gratitude is the essential attribute for appreciating Hashem, God, and the world he created, and is thus integral for his service. As our leader and the one who would ultimately receive the Torah on our behalf, Moses could not be flawed in this area. So the question is, why couldn't he hit the water and the sand? Because the water protected him when he was a baby. His sister put him on a little basket, and the basket was in the water, the Nile. Remember the story?
Somehow he would be contaminated if he had to do it.
No, look. Moses said, water was good to me. He understood the need of the plague, right? He understood the need of the plague. But he said, the water was good to me. When I was a baby, the water told me, and nobody found me until the daughter of Pharaoh found me, and she took me into the palace. So
That's what this rabbi said.
he doesn't say that. He is making a comment of that. There is something that is known. It's not part of the text, but you should know that in advance. Why was Moses thankful to the water? Because when he was a baby, he was there. And I said, but okay, I understand that. But what about the sand? What about the sand? Why wasn't Moses able to hit the sun? Why was Moses thankful to the sand? Any ideas? When I say this, I'm talking about to you too, guys. Okay, if you have any ideas or you want a comment about it, just do it. Look, okay. What do you think, Rocky? No idea.
I don't know where he comes from.
Okay, it's a midrash. But I said that Moses was thankful to the sand because he used the sand to cover the body of the Egyptian he killed. And he was not found immediately. Until one of his own ran him away, remember?
So the Midrash is the best explanation for why these hands arrived to him.
Well, we have to explain why God spared Moses from hitting the water and the sand. You have a better explanation why only the water and the sand, and he was able to perform all the other miracles. Really. And he said that is so. Let me go back to this rabbi and why we think it's so important. Because from here we apply the concept of Kal Vachomer. Kal Vachomer is a concept used in rabbinic literature that implies even more so. What does it mean? It said, if Moses was thankful to something that is inanimate, Kal Vachomer to a person, even more so to a person. If the Torah is telling us that we should be thankful to nature, even more so to people who actually help us, and even more so to God who gave us the life. You see the progression? So the rabbi said that the best way of teaching something is that you start with the lowest common denominator, the lowest one. Why? Because once you understand the principle, then using Kal Vachomer, you understand that you should apply the same principle to everything that comes above that. So, if I say to you, for example, that the Torah says that I should not destroy any of your property, use Kal Vachomer there. Something that it will teach me, if I said, if the Torah says that I should not destroy other people's property, Kal Vachomer, other people's life. So some people understand that the prohibition of murder, it should be understood by Kal Vachomer after the Torah said you should not steal. That's the way the rabbi said that no, the Torah make it clear that you should not murder just in case, because that is we don't want any risk to somebody misunderstanding that.
So that midrash is about respecting the planet.
Yeah. And we say why? Because the planet is good for us, right? It helps us in the path. It's giving you, the roof that is over your head. It's coming from material from the ground, right? The water you drink and everything. So it said you should be thankful to that. Once you understand that, then Kal Vachomer, you should be grateful to people, and you should be grateful to God just by applying Kal Vachomer here. So it's fascinating. Let's continue. Now, you see, this is interesting because here this Rebbe is having a very interesting questions about how to apply Kal Vachomer and the extensions of gratitude. He said, one who crosses the ocean and is rescued from shipwreck gives thanks to God. So far, so good? Yeah, if you're rescued, will you be thankful? Right? Percent. Should we not thank God if we cross without a mishap? Now, he's saying, he's going the opposite. This is what happened when you start from the maximum common denominator. He said, look, if I tell you that you should be thankful after you cross the ocean, right? You will say, Kal Vachomer, I will be thankful if I'm in danger and somebody rescues me. But now he tries to go the other way around. He said, if nothing happens to you, should you be thankful? And then he said, one who is cured of a dangerous illness offer praise to God. That's common, right? Thank you, God, you healed me. And then he asked, should we not praise God when God grants health and preserve us from illness? Preserve us from illness? And what he's saying is, why do people wait until they go through something bad to be back to normal and then they thank God? And he was saying it doesn't make any sense. We should thank God every day for everything. We should thank God because we are not going through those things. So what he's saying, again, he's trying to expand the reflections on gratitude and the extent of gratitude. We shouldn't be grateful only for being protected or restored from the exceptions. We should be grateful for the routine, for things that happen to us every day. It's interesting. Welcome, Randy. Welcome to the class. You will replay later. Yeah, this is a good time to say that if you missed any part of the class, this class is going to be rebroadcast tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. So relax and keep enjoying the rest of the class. Now, listen to this. Now we go to halakha, Jewish law. When do we supposed to be thankful? Okay? Listen to this. There are 4 categories of people who need to thank God for the kindness He has done for them with the blessing of thanksgiving. Birkat HaGomel. It's in the Siddur, by the way, and I'm talking to all of you. If you ever feel that you fall into one of these categories, what you have to do is you come to Shari Zedek, to any of our minions, could be daily minion, could be Shabbat service, and you are entitled to come to the microphone and to recite the Birkat HaGomel, okay? It's printed on our Siddur, so everybody can say. So, what are the categories? Let's go through it. Number 1, one who has crossed the ocean or an overseas flight travel, etc. Okay? You cross the ocean. We don't do that anymore with ships, right? But we do it with planes. If you cross the ocean, let's say you go to Europe, you go to Israel, right? You go to France, you go to Italy. When you come back, what do? You go to Shul, and you say the Birkat HaGomel. Okay? Number 2, one who has crossed the desert, included in the category are all other life-threatening. So that will mean that, for example, if I go from Canada to Buenos Aires, am I crossing the ocean? No. But it's considered crossing the desert. like a long land extension. So you also have to say Birkat HaGomel. Let's continue. Situations from which one is saved, such a wall collapsing upon him, a goring ox, robbers, car accidents, etc. Okay? Again, you come to synagogue, you say the Birkat HaGomel. One who recovered from a very serious illness. In these days, practical terms, you are in the hospital, you had a surgery, you go home, call the synagogue, you come and you say Birkat HaGomel. Okay? Let's say, God forbid, you are for a long time on a cancer treatment, in remission, you come and say Birkat HaGomel. Okay? And the last one who was released from prison. Okay? You come to synagogue and you say Birkat HaGomel. It is preferable that the blessing be said in the presence of a Torah scroll. In other words, you always should try to come on Monday morning, Thursday morning, Saturday afternoon during the Torah service. And if possible, the one saying the blessing should also receive an aliyah. Okay? That's why you always should try to arrange in advance that you want to say Birkat HaGomel. If you call our office, you talk to the secretary, she will know immediately what you're talking about. He said, hey, I want to say the blessing of Thanksgiving. This is my situation. And yeah, you will be offered an aliyah to the Torah. You don't have to be a member. Just call us. Now, let's continue here. However, if a Torah is not available, the blessing should not be delayed beyond the third day. Okay? So for any reason, let's say that you're not going to be able to come on Monday. You got released from the hospital on Sunday. But then you're not going to be able to come on Monday, but the only day that you are available to come to shul is on Tuesday. You come on Tuesday, there is no Torah. Doesn't matter, you come to the microphone, you look at the congregation, and you say the Birkat HaGomel, and there is a line that the congregation will read back to you. That's the way it works. Any questions, please let me know in the chat. Let's continue. Now, the prohibition against ingratitude applies not just to personal kindness, but to intellectual influences. Okay, listen to this. I love this. Thus, the Gaon of Vilna counsels, if you find something worthwhile in a book written by another, don't ridicule parts of the book which with you disagree. Don't you love that? Let's say you read a book that you really like, and there is something that really resonates with you, and you take it, say, oh, what a great thing. Then you keep reading the book, and then you say, this is nonsense, the next chapter. And you make fun of the book because of that chapter, and Gaon of Vilna say, hold on a minute. There is something of that book that you liked. So, out of gratitude to that, you're not allowed to make fun or negative comments about the book because of that other chapter that really helped you. Okay? And it happened to me in every book that I read. That there are things that I like, there are things that I don't like, but you take the positive and you should be grateful for that. Now, Rabbi Harold Kushner said, listen to this, it's beautiful. Can you see the holiness in those things you take for granted? A paved road or a washing machine. If you concentrate on finding whatever is good in every situation, you will discover that your life will suddenly be filled with gratitude, a feeling that nurtures the soul. It's true. Look, I'm on a chair right now, right? You, Rocky, you're on a chair. You guys at home, you may be on a chair, on a couch, I don't know where you are. Now try to imagine if you have to be standing on your feet from the beginning of this class. How will you feel? but we are not thankful to the chair. Even though if we've been comfy for already 40 minutes because we did have a chair, or the nice controlled temperature that we have in this building. Otherwise, we had to be outside on that cold snow. What is the temperature today? -30 wind chill. Why did I check? Yes, Rice, that's the temperature outside. Wind chill -30 Celsius. How much is in Fahrenheit? It's probably the same at that point. I think there is one point that Fahrenheit and Celsius is virtually the same. Anyway, so it's very important to be grateful. Now we also have to understand that we are all Jews, right? How do you say Jew in Hebrew? How do you say Jew in Hebrew, guys? If you have access to the chat, let me know. I will give you a minute. Think about it. How do you say Jew in Hebrew? How? Yehudi. That's a word. Yehudi. What is the word Yehudi coming from? Yehuda, who was one of Jacob's sons. Yehuda. Yehuda became a tribe and then became the largest tribe and the only one that survived after the decimation of the kingdoms in Israel. So the only tribe that survived was Yehuda. So basically we are all descendants of Yehuda. So we are Yehudim. We are Jews. Okay? Now what sometimes people forget is where the word Yehuda comes from. So if we are all Yehuda, we all have the qualities of Yehuda. What is the root of the word Yehuda? Lehodot. What is lehodot? To give thanks. To give thanks. So I don't know if you ever realized that the essence of the word Jew is the thankful one. So if you want to be like Yehuda, if you want to be a Yehudi, you have to express Hoda'ah, which is thanksgiving. And it's a very important thing to remember. A Jew should always be thankful. Because that's our essence. Yehudim. Hoda'ah. Thanksgiving. Yeah. Let's read this one. We see the trait of gratitude reflected in the Talmud commentary Shita Mekubetzet to Baba Kama 92b, where it is recorded that Rabbi Yitzhak Alfasi refused to judge. Let's see if you agree with this guy, Rocky. Refused to judge a case involving a bathhouse where he bathed. Since he owned a debt of gratitude to that bathhouse, he did not want to run the risk of sliding it while determining its fate. Why must one feel gratitude even to bathhouse? Because the ability to appreciate kindness that one receives is one of the foundations of serving God. The Midrash says, if one denies his friend's kindness, he will be inevitably deny God's kindness. Indeed, the very first sin that mankind did involved denying an act of kindness. This occurred when Adam defended his eating from the tree of knowledge with the word, the woman that you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I ate. Instead of recognizing that God had performed a kindness for Adam by creating Eve, Adam instead blamed God for his own sin. Okay? Interesting. What do you think about excusing yourself to the bathhouse? Will you do something like that? Let's say that
A feeling of an obligation of gratitude would be a reason to disqualify a judge.
yeah, let's say that, where do you exercise? You go to Taylor to exercise, but your son is there. But it's different. Let's say that you go to Refit, right? And you feel that it was good for you. You feel better and everything. But then eventually there is a case about the Refit that comes to you. You don't have stock there, right? You don't have anything. Will you take the case? And in this case, the rabbi said, no, because you know what? I'm better because of this place. So I feel that maybe I will be biased. So it's
That's a good point.
maybe I will be biased. It's and I always wonder stuff like that when with judges they have to, let's say, they have to hear a case involving I don't know Apple, right? You know this trial now that the Apple Watch 9 and Apple Watch Ultra. There is a case involving patent infringement. There was another company that invented a method to use sensors to measure the level of oxygen in the body. Phenomenal. It's phenomenal. The case says that Apple used the patent and the technology without the approval of the company. So there was a judge that said that the Apple Watch 9, Apple Watch Ultra will have to take out of the shelves overnight. And Apple was not be able to sell it. Apple was able to reinstate that until the verdict. Because what the judge said, until we have a verdict, it's out of the shelves. So far what happened is it's back to the shelf until the verdict, okay? I guess it's giving Apple more time to negotiate a deal with the owners of the patent. But I was wondering is, what if this judge, right, she prevented a heart attack because of the information that the Apple, that my Apple Watch, you put two fingers here, and it will do like an electrocardiogram. I got AKG. Let's say that I do that, I detect something weird. I got to the hospital and I said, oh, thank God you came here, sir. We'll take you to the OR right away. And then I'm a judge that I have to judge to see if that watch has to be taken out of the shelves. I think it's very complex. Right? So I don't know. It's anyway. So gratitude is something that we take very seriously, and according to the rabbis, fortunately or sometimes unfortunately, gratitude will play to our bias. Right? Forget about judges or not judges. Gratitude will play to your bias. When sometimes we refuse to see, when somebody is telling you about, or they are proof that it's a fact that somebody is an evil person. But you refuse to see it because the person was so good to you. It's very complex. Very complex. Okay. Now, let's go to another topic here. I'm sorry we don't have too much time to go into this, but I think it's fascinating anyway. Let me read these two things first, and then we are going to discuss it. Okay? And God said to Abram, now we're going back to Genesis, by the way. Okay? Because remember, in this week's parsha, it's all about the plagues and the famous "Let my people go." It's all about leaving slavery. But what we have to understand is that the slavery was prophesied by God. God already told Abraham, your descendants are going to be slaves. Okay? Listen, we're here, it's in Genesis, listen. And God said to Abram, know well that your offspring shall be strangers in the land, not theirs, and they shall be enslaved and oppressed 400 years. You see this? Which land? It doesn't say. It doesn't say. No, this is very important. It's very important to notice that there is a prophecy, but it doesn't say where, okay? It doesn't say who the oppressor is going to be. Because it's interesting, because then it says, but I will execute judgment on the nation they shall serve, and in the end, they shall go free with great wealth. Okay? And then let's go to Exodus now. I have now heard the moaning of the Israelites because the Egyptians are holding them in bondage. And I have remembered my covenant. Which covenant? What I just read before, right? That part of the covenant is they're going to live with wealth, and I will judge the one who oppressed you. Now we know who the oppressor is. The Egyptians. But Genesis didn't say that. And that is very important. Let's continue. Say therefore to the Israelite people, I am Adonai. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians and deliver you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and through extraordinary chastisements. Okay? So why this is so important? And I would like to ask everybody, and I would like to ask everyone to exercise your brains here, because this is one of the most difficult topics in theology in general. If the Egyptians were already prophesied in Genesis, right? If God said, eventually you're going to be slaves and you're going to be oppressed, right? What right does God have to judge the Egyptians, who technically it looks like they were doing what they were doing because God wanted it? Because God's will. God's will was that the people of Israel should be enslaved, oppressed, right? So what right does God have now to come and punish the Egyptians? Weren't they agents of God? This is very common, and let me give you another example, Rocky. It's you may even have heard this in court. I don't know what kind of people you have in front of you. I can only imagine. But let's say that, like, somebody was killed, right? Murdered. And then the killer said, why are you trying to put me in jail? It was the will of God. If God is in control of everything, if the person died, that means that was the will of God. And if that was the will of God, what right do you have to judge me? I was God's messenger. Because it's clear, and we say this every Rosh Hashanah for Yunetane Tokef, right? Who will live, who will die, who by fire, who by water, who by sword, right? It was decided already. And if God's already decided that, how can you come after the killer? Aha. It's an interesting question. I think it's a question that every religious person should ask themselves to try to understand. So let's continue this, because this is what's getting interesting. Right? Again, if God decreed that Abraham's descendants will be exiled and enslaved, why were the Egyptians punished for enslaving them? Let's see why. Well, let's start with Maimonides, okay? Answer number one, the Rambam, he said, Hashem, God, did not say in what country the people of Israel will be enslaved. Remember I mentioned that? The Egyptians, so to speak, volunteered to enslave Israel, and for that they were punished. It's like God decides, when you say Yunetane Tokef, who by sword, okay? Let's say that God decided that so-and-so will be murdered, okay? What it was not decided is who is going to be the murderer. Whoever did it out of free will.
You could teach a course, free will and determinism.
Yeah, but it's so that is in a nutshell, of course, everything that we are talking. Now, interesting, because the Ravad, Rabbeinu Abraham ben David, he kind of disagrees with Maimonides. And he will say, the Egyptians were punished for treating their slaves more harshly than necessary. They would say, no, no, no. The Egyptians were agents of God, but they didn't do exactly what they're supposed to do. Okay? Now, the same concept is going to be, for example, with the destruction of the temple and Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylonia, is an interesting character in Judaism because sometimes he's presented as the most evil person and sometimes he's presented as a tool in God's hand. So Nebuchadnezzar is it's also the same thing. Let's continue. Now, the Rambam will try to explain more his words. He will say, there is no contradiction between our having free will and Hashem's knowing the future, because his knowledge is different from our knowledge in a way that we cannot comprehend. I will try to say this in a nutshell, and I'm sorry if I sound too philosophical or Kabbalistic here, but this is the thing. From God's perspective, there is no time, okay? So, if there is something that it will happen to us, it will happen to us. For God already happened. Because God doesn't have a timeline. We have a timeline. Understand? We have yesterday, we have right now, and we have tomorrow. But this happens only on Earth, on space. But God is above space, but that's why we also say God is above space and above time. There is no yesterday, today, and tomorrow for God. So it's very difficult for us to understand or to answer the question, does God know what I'm about to do? And the short answer is, whatever you're about to do, you already did it in God's realm, because there is no time. There is no time.
Sounds like an intellectual cop-out.
Yeah, well, this is the short answer. Okay, let's continue with this text here. It says, somehow, the fact that he knows that a certain events will happen and a certain person will be involved does not force that person to play that role. Rather, every person has free will. You did it because you wanted to do it. And it's almost like because you wanted to do it, God didn't stop you. It just channeled you to a specific person that it was waiting the punishment. You understand that? It's Maimonides. It's an interesting concept. I said that there's somebody who was already, he got a verdict, right? The verdict was death by murder. I will be somebody who really wants to kill somebody out of his evil intention, out of his free will, but God will make the shidduch. So the person could die, and the other person could be judged and punished for what he did.
Are you going to take this to October 7th?
Well, it's not me. I did hear that stuff. Like I hear so many difficult to digest things. Like, for example, that they were saying, I heard a rabbi that said only people who broke Shabbat to go to the music festival died, because it was on a Saturday, right? People who went to shul instead of going to a, you know what I mean? It's difficult to say, but we still have to understand how you can have free will and punishment and a God that knows everything at the same time. It's one of the most difficult things to answer for any theologian. The other side is somebody like Rabbi Kushner, right? That he has his own explanation of that without accepting the concept that God is omnipotent. Kushner said God is not omnipotent. That's the solution. That's the answer. And he said bad things happen because God cannot stop. It's if you want to know more about that, I recommend the books of Kushner. Okay. We are running out of time, so I will read one more. Okay, let me read this one. It's fascinating. Don't try to think too much out of it, okay? But listen, if a person, let's say Reuven, says, let however wants come and separate teruma from my produce. You know what is teruma? It's like a portion of your produce to be taken to the temple. Okay? Let whoever wants come and separate teruma from my produce. A volunteer who comes and separate teruma, let's say Shimon, will not be considered to be an agent of the produce owner, Reuven. Okay? Why? Because he said, let whoever wants come and separate teruma. Accordingly, even if Reuven had previously undertaken a vow not to derive any benefit from this Shimon, Shimon will be permitted to separate teruma on Reuven's behalf, since Shimon will be acting on his own and not technically acting for Reuven. Okay? So because basically what happened is, the way Reuven said it is not actually expecting anybody to come. Okay? He said whoever could come, but he's not expecting anybody to do it. Now the next one said, on the other hand, if Reuven had said, let whoever hears me come and separate teruma from my produce, because basically another way of saying it is, hey, all of you who are listening, do I have any volunteer to come and get teruma? You know the difference? I said, do I have any volunteer? A volunteer who comes and separates teruma is considered to be Reuven's agent. Therefore, if Reuven had previously undertaken a vow not to derive any benefit from Shimon, Shimon will not be permitted to separate teruma on Reuven's behalf. Okay? Don't think too much about it, and listen to the next thing. When Hashem decreed that Bnei Israel, the people of Israel, will be enslaved, his knowledge that the enslavement will take place in Egypt did not force the Egyptians to enslave Bnei Israel. It was as if Hashem had said, let whoever wants come and enslave Bnei Israel, in which case the person who responds is not deemed to be an agent. It follows then that the Egyptians who did respond were deserving of the punishment. But he's not closing there. There is one more text. Same rabbi, listen to this. When Hashem decreed that Bnei Israel will be enslaved in Egypt, he effectively appointed the Egyptians as agents to fulfill his will. It was as he said, let whoever hears me come and enslave Bnei Israel, in which case the one who responded was deemed to be an agent. Therefore, since the Egyptians were merely his agents, they would not have been deserving of punishment if not for the fact that they treated their slaves too harshly. So those are the explanation of the two options. Some rabbis will understand that God said, yes. God said, hey, whoever wants, come and enslave them. Or maybe God said, hey, any takers? So some rabbis will say, no, God asked for takers, in which case they're agents so that they cannot be punished, unless that they don't fulfill with the mandate of an agent, right? And the other rabbis understand that God wasn't looking for an agent, and whoever took the opportunity to enslave the Israelites did it on their own, and that's why they were liable. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you everyone for tuning in this morning. Thank you, Rocky, for being here. Remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. David Grossman said he was in Fauda. Who was in Fauda? Oh yeah, it's Idana Mehdi. It's not only in Fauda, he's one of my favorite singers. In fact, we do one of the melodies of Lejado D. Here, the Kabbalat Shabbat is from Idana Mehdi. Yeah, great singer, great singer. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Please stay safe and hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.